The lives of medieval peasants were not easy. Life expectancy was short, food was scarce, and disease was widespread. It's hard to believe that they found any time for leisure activities, but they did. In fact, peasants slept more than 2 hours a day, more than people do today. But how did they do it? Come with me as we take a journey back in time and explore how medieval peasants found rest in a world of hardship. As the sun set over the horizon, the toiling peasants would return home from their fields, weary and aching from a day of backbreaking labor. Upon entering their humble abode, they would collapse onto their beds, which were often little more than straw mattresses on the floor. But wait, there's more to the story than meets the eye. These humble beds were a source of comfort and warmth in the cold and dark nights of medieval Europe. Each morning, when the first rays of sunlight peeked through the window, the peasants would rise from their beds and shake off their slumber. Some would begin their day with a prayer, giving thanks for the rest they had received. Others would stretch their stiff muscles, preparing themselves for another day of labor. Life as a peasant was not all backbreaking work and somber prayers. They also found time to indulge in leisure activities. During the rare moments of free time they had, peasants would engage in hobbies such as drinking, gambling, storytelling, and, believe it or not, sleeping. Yes, you heard that right. Peasants would nap twice a day, once in the afternoon after lunch and again before sunset. These naps were not just a way to catch up on sleep, but also a chance to escape the harsh realities of their lives. Now let's talk about what happened while peasants slept. It might surprise you to learn that even in the darkest of times, peasants managed to find moments of joy and laughter. At night, after tucking themselves into bed, they would entertain themselves by singing songs, reciting poems, and playing games. Their imaginations would run wild as they shared spooky stories and legends, keeping each other company in the darkness. Sometimes their slumber was not so peaceful. Peasants often had to contend with creepy crawlies and other unwelcome guests in their beds. The straw mattresses were not only uncomfortable, but also provided a cozy home for insects, mice, and other animals. Imagine trying to sleep with a mouse or two sharing your bed. It's enough to make anyone's skin crawl. Despite these challenges, peasants found ways to make their beds more comfortable. They would often adorn their straw mattresses with a simple linen sheet and a blanket, which provided some much-needed cushioning and warmth. In addition, they might place a pillow under their heads, although these were often just sacks filled with straw or hay. To keep warm during the cold winter months, peasants would sometimes pile on top of each other in their beds. This may sound cramped and uncomfortable, but it was actually a practical way to conserve heat and make the best of a challenging situation. But wait, there's more. Peasants didn't just sleep in beds. Sometimes they would take their rest wherever they could find it. During festivals or special occasions, they might pitch tents or sleep in the open air, enjoying the freedom and camaraderie of being surrounded by their community. Other times, they would seek refuge in barns or stables, taking shelter alongside their animals. Despite the hardships they faced, peasants found ways to make the best of their circumstances. They understood the importance of rest and relaxation and made it a priority to take care of themselves. After all, a well-rested peasant was a productive peasant. So the next time you find yourself tossing and turning at night, just remember that you could be lying in a more comfortable bed than many peasants did. In the medieval period, they endured not just creepy crawlies and cold, hard straw, but also the constant threat of danger, whether it came in the form of marauding armies, rampaging animals, or even the occasional vampire. Peasants were forced to take turns keeping watch while their fellow villagers slept, making sure everyone was safe from harm. Talk about a scary way to get some shut-eye. Peasants also had to deal with the aftermath of those dangers, which is why many medieval towns were built with sturdy communal ovens and storage facilities. This way, if their homes were destroyed during an attack or a natural disaster, the townspeople could still have access to basic necessities like food and shelter. And let's not forget about the unsanitary conditions of the time. Toilets were a rare luxury, meaning peasants had to use the outhouse or, well, the bush. So if you think you've got it bad because you have to get up in the middle of the night for a bathroom break, just be thankful you don't have to make that trek in the dark with the added risk of encountering a wild animal or, worse. But despite all these hardships, peasants somehow managed to squeeze in those precious moments of sleep whenever they could. They developed a unique sleep cycle that involved catching some Z's twice a night, once in the early hours and again before sunrise. And even though they were sleeping in potentially dangerous conditions, they found ways to protect themselves, like tucking their valuables under their pillows or hiding them in secret pouches sewn into their clothing. Peasants were resourceful people who knew that even in the darkest of times, a little bit of rest could go a long way. And that's a wrap on our journey through the medieval peasant sleep experience. From their comfy straw beds to their twice nightly sleep schedule, these folks sure knew how to catch some shut-eye, even in the toughest of situations. So the next time you find yourself struggling to get a good night's sleep, just remember, it could be worse. You could be sleeping in a barn, fighting off rodents, and keeping watch for marauders. Now I'm wide awake. Guess it S back to the security of modern-day living where the worst thing we have to worry about is our cat knocking us off the bed in the middle of the night. Sweet dreams.